Many people are aware there have been some core system changes from Dark Souls 1 to Dark Souls 2, the most notable of these right now being roll or backstep cancelled parries. We have found a new piece of tech that depends on these changes, in particular changes to how running works. In the tradition of other moves such as the Flamburger, the Burrito, and the Ravioli step, we dub this maneuver the dinner roll. That may have looked a little weird to you, and that's because it was. The dinner roll is a method by which a player can do a running attack directly out of a roll. Let's go into some specifics about how exactly this is done, and some theory on why it can happen. We are going to make a separate video for some very specific testing we did to find this using a macro, and also talk about potential future applications of that macro and this technique as testing metrics. First, check your equip burden. Ideally, you should be under 40%. That will make this easiest and the running attack come out smoothly and instantly. While a dinner roll can be done between 40 to 50%, it is more difficult to pull off. Dinner rolls can also be done above 50%, but the attack timings are different and the maneuver is weaker. Further info later on. For now, just know that burden matters. Second, the inputs. While under 40%, these inputs are fairly forgiving. Tap roll, and immediately upon releasing it, tap and hold roll again. This should be held throughout the rolling animation, until the running attack starts. The attack input can be done with either hand at any time that you would normally do a rolling attack. However, if the attack input is done just after the roll animation finishes, but before your character begins moving in any direction, a rolling attack will come out. Above 50%, the attack input must be done after a brief pause, as soon as you see your character begin moving after a roll, or a fat rolling after about 1.5 steps. The reason for all these quirks will be outlined in the next section, but if just doing a dinner roll is all you care about, that's it. Very simple. If you'd like to hear some more specifics on the theory behind this, continue on. If not, thank you for watching, we hope you learned something. Now, for those of you interested in why this can happen, here is our current understanding of the mechanics at play. Take this, of course, with a grain of salt, there's just two guys theory crafting. First, we need to explain exactly how running works. Some of this is back-tested from discovering this move. Rolls and backsteps do not come out when roll is depressed, instead when it is released, to ensure that running is possible. Running is initiated by covering a set amount of ground with the roll button depressed. Note, a set amount of ground, not a set amount of time. The player, by inputting and releasing space to start a roll, and then while rolling holding space, convinces the game that the player is holding space to run during the roll, and thus considers them at the same time running and rolling. Normally, with no other inputs, this will let the player start running immediately out of a roll because the player is considered as running during the roll. However, hitting the light attack button tells the game to initiate an attack at the next opportunity. On the frame that the roll is interruptible, the one on which the rolling attack would usually start, the player is actually considered as running, and thus the game combines the running state with the attack state, inputs, and outputs a running attack. Back to that point about a set amount of ground versus a set amount of time. This is the reason why this maneuver cannot be done effectively or easily over 50% equip burden. The shortened roll length means that, even with frame-perfect inputs, the player cannot have roll depressed for a great enough distance of the roll to be considered as running by the roll's completion. This is also why dinner rolls are easier to perform with lower burden bracket. With lower burden, the time between the two roll inputs can be larger and still have roll be held for a sufficient length of the roll for the game to consider the player as entering a run state on completion. So again, thank you for watching and hope you learned something.